My name is Martin Sandoval. I am the state senator of the 11th Legislative District. I'd like to say that I represent the heart of the Latino community in Illinois. Of course, we've shared the wealth of the Latino community in the remap, and so there's a bunch of us now that represent the Latino community, but I am still the only Latino that represents Latinos in the suburbs. For the 4 Latino senators, I am the only one that represents suburban Cook County, along with part of Chicago, so I'm always looking for a first. Without further ado, I want to first start off by welcoming our panelist, but he's got some other duties this morning. Before I introduce the panelists, I'd like to introduce a man who needs no introduction. I always say that, I say this respectfully, one day when he leaves this earth, because we all have to leave the earth at some point in time, hopefully not very soon, there will be a statue to this man, because he is an historic first, a man that has been paving the way for many of us to be here, to serve this great body we call the Illinois General Assembly. He is the founder of the Latino Caucus Foundation, the founder, the co-founder of this conference that we're celebrating here today. He, the first Latino senator in the history of the state of Illinois, and he is an expert in so many other fields, primarily education, but he is first and foremost an expert on Latinos and Latino families, and I'd like him to have the opening statement and the opening words for this breakout session. He has been a mentor to me. When I got to the General Assembly, I am proud to say that when I was elected in 2003 to the Illinois General Assembly, along with La Senadora Iris Martinez, we were able to become the majority and take control of the Illinois Senate. And we, with our election, this man became the assistant majority leader of the Illinois Senate for the Latinos. The first time a Latino became an assistant majority leader in the Senate. Without further ado, a great man and our hero, El Senador Miguel del Valle.
Thank you, Senator Sandoval, and I appreciate the invitation I was given by the caucus to participate in this panel today. I'm doing double duty. I'm on the education panel as well, so I will be stepping out and going down the hall. But it's really an honor to be here with so many familiar faces because I am an Illinois Commerce Commissioner, and my job is that of regulator. So I went from being a legislator to a regulator. That sounds like it rhymes, right? So my role has changed somewhat, but my passion has not. And I think my friends here from the utility sector recognize that I feel just as strongly today about Latino advancement as I did when I first was elected to the Illinois Senate and started serving in 1987. I think our high school students weren't born yet, right? And so it's been a long, long time. Thank you to Senator Sandoval and again to the excellent panel we have here today. And I want to once again thank the Illinois Legislative Latino Caucus Foundation for the invitation to speak. I want to just briefly speak about our state's electric and gas modernization programs and their opportunities for our communities, for our neighborhoods. There are a lot of exciting things happening in the energy sector, and you're going to hear about those things today. I'm not going to get into all of those things because you have some excellent folks here. The leadership is here from the utility sector. And that's right. That it is important to acknowledge that. But all these things are happening at a time when when there's all kinds of issues out there, you know, economic issues, other kinds of issues that affect people on a day-to-day basis. The gas program, just to begin there, will mainly be replacing cast iron pipes. You know, in Chicago, you have these cast iron pipes that, and the people here from Peoples, help me, what, 100 years old? 150. I was off by 50 years. Can you imagine infrastructure, gas infrastructure that has pipes that are 150 years old? And for our future engineers in the room in the back, you know, I look at this and I marvel. It's incredible to think that 150 years ago, they did what's there now that's still working today. These engineering feats are just incredible, and we must recognize that. The electric modernization programs include more technologically advanced house meters, as well as automation and connected technologies that allow the utilities to better monitor and control how energy is flowing through the wires. Technology has just taken over, and it's exciting, because it means that people will be able to better control, individuals control the use of their energy. They'll be able to take more steps to become more efficient, to reduce the cost of their energy, and they will be able to do this through this technology with smart meters and the smart grid that you're going to hear a lot about today. These projects have many benefits for you, your families, and your neighbors. You may not know it, but it is amazing. It is amazing engineering feat to have it so that when you flip the light switch on and turn on your heat, it will almost always come on. I mean, we take that for granted. We just assume, yeah, it's there. And we don't stop to think, well, how did it get here? And how is it addressed if there's an emergency? If there's a case like we just had in Edison Park, where people lost their heat for several hours as a result of a gas line rupture. And then, of course, when that happens is when we start to think, well, how is it that the gas gets to my house? And you start to ask more and more questions. The programs we're talking about will increase the reliability of those systems for electrons and gas, which cover our whole state. The electric modernization programs will enable you to go online and see your energy usage. They will help you buy products like the Nest Smart Thermostat, which can help you save money while keeping your house comfortable. With some of these systems, you can let your thermostat know when you'll be home, and it'll anticipate when you're home. They're going to have systems that allow you in your car to be able, if you're a mile away, be able to or through your smartphone, be able to turn your heat up before you get home. There are all kinds of crazy things that are good things going on. And the wonderful thing about it is that, you know, we say, and I'm one of those who wasn't much into computers, and, you know, I think I left the Illinois General Assembly, and I still didn't have a cell phone, right?
No.
When I left the Illinois General Assembly, now I can't.
That was so wrong.
Now I can't do without my iPhone. I mean, that's just the way it is. And so now most people have smartphones, and there are all kinds of applications that we'll be using to deal with energy, and you'll hear more about that today. Though it is not as flashy, these electrical modernization programs will also help you with reducing and quickly restoring outages. The system is being strengthened in many areas to make sure that there are fewer outages and that the outages don't last as long, so that you get your heat or your electricity restored as quickly as possible. The cost of these modernization programs is significant, and this is where this gentleman comes in. You know, one of the things when Marty was first elected, and we were just talking about this earlier, that I did was I went to the Senate President and I said, we have to have a Latino on the Energy Committee. Have to have a Latino on the Energy Committee. Since I was the only Latino there, I couldn't serve on all the committees. So once the reinforcements came in, we were able to
Put me in, Coach.
spread out a little more. And Marty has done a wonderful job. So the cost of these modernization programs, as I said, is significant. For the largest electrical companies here today, the General Assembly, and Marty Sandoval, has mandated at least $3.2 billion of our electrical modernization alone. This includes about 5 million smart meters that will be installed. The legislation expects these programs to add the full-time equivalent of 2,000 ComEd workers and about 450 Ameren jobs. But because the meters include communications technology, the utilities will no longer need very many meter readers who would come around to read your meter every month to determine how much you owe the utility company. This means that if you want to get your start with Ameren or ComEd, it might be a good idea to get yourself an engineering background, an IT background, even a legal background, as these companies do represent great places to work no matter what your interest. As an example, ComEd has around 6,000 employees, and they include, as I said, engineers, accountants, linemen, lawyers, you name it. Exelon, another company, that's where the nuclear plants come from in Illinois, is very active in Illinois, has roughly 5,900 employees at 6 nuclear plants. The average salary of these full-time employees at the Exelon nuclear plants is over $100,000 a year. But only 12% of them are women, 3% are African Americans, and only 4% are Latinos with Exelon. Now, Exelon may or may not be coming to the General Assembly for some support in order to keep some nuclear plants running. 3 plants that they say are in danger of having to close because they're operating at a deficit, if you will. So these are regulated industries. Utilities are regulated industries, and they operate under the Public Utilities Act of the state of Illinois, and the Illinois Commerce Commission oversees the implementation, full implementation of the Public Utilities Act. So we play a significant role in determining the future. And it was the General Assembly that authorized these modernization expenditures. Big money, big money. That is necessary in order to do all the things I talked about earlier. And so it's not a matter of whether or not the General Assembly should have authorized this. Yes, of course. It's a matter of implementation. And how do we ensure that communities all benefit? Because let me remind you, and I know you know this, but I want to remind our students, you know, your parents are paying for this. And if you're working, you're probably paying for it too. And if you're not paying for it now, you're going to be paying for it tomorrow. You're paying for this. You are ratepayers. You are customers of these utilities. They cannot do all this modernization, all this construction, all the construction that you see in Chicago, for example, with the gas pipeline. You see all the streets broken up. We're paying for that to replace the 115-year-old gas mains underground in the streets. We're paying for all the electrical work that's being done by ComEd and NICOR. The gas sector, in its own modernization program called the Qualified Infrastructure Programs, in Chicago is spending $10 billion over the next 20 years. And as I said, these are dollars paid by Chicago residents. NICOR and Ameren will have their anticipated gas modernization programs as well. And maybe in the future, they will have their own smart meters with advanced communications technology. For now, it is enough and long overdue to upgrade service and increase reliability. These are exciting times in what is usually perceived as the unexciting energy sector.
Who said that?
I know.
I know you don't agree, but the audience is wondering, what the hell do I mean? Yeah, could you really get excited about electricity and gas? You know,
Yes.
these are exciting times. But there are many issues out there that need to be addressed. These programs and broader changes in the utility business models have the potential for increased control and benefits for everyone who depends on these essential services. I think you would agree that if the utilities enjoy guaranteed recovery from you and your family on these large, prudent investments, so should the neighborhoods be ensured that the pressure of increased bills represents real benefits and control rather than merely the slow recovery of another infrastructure investment through operational benefits. And they know exactly what I mean by that. The neighborhoods need more than just more of the same. You will hear more and more about coming opportunities for customers to totally change the way they think about and consume energy. This may be through the expansion of utility and third-party programs which allow you to pay for the cost of energy right when you use it, real time. You know, electricity prices vary. And so you could learn that by operating your dishwasher or your washing machine at a later time of the day that's not peak time, you could save money. So we need to educate the consumer. It's not enough to just go in there and have ComEd to go in there and put a smart meter and tell you you have a smart meter, and you're wondering, well, what does that mean? What does that mean? And then not knowing that they could track their utility usage on a regular basis, on a day-to-day basis, and be able to determine how they can save money. Other ongoing programs are improving the efficiency of your houses. If you reduce the amount of air going in and out of your house, it'll stay warm in the winter and colder in the summer. In the future, we may also be able to help ourselves and our neighbors by creating more energy-efficient homes. There are also interesting programs on how to pay for these improvements. Do you know that there's a program now called on-bill financing? A lot of folks in the community don't know that. So if your furnace goes down and you've got no heat, I mean, you can get a boiler replaced and you could do on-bill financing, which means that you can have that cost covered and then pay for it gradually by including the cost of that over an extended period of time on your regular gas bill, your regular bill. And a lot of people don't know that that's happening. You know, there's a lot of talk about solar. I'm a big believer in distributive energy. That's the future. Renewables, solar, wind. And I'd like to see more, not just commercial, but residential rooftops with solar panels and people feeding into the system. And the utilities, of course, adjusting and doing what they have to do to adjust their business models to be able to provide, continue to provide the kinds of services they need. Because even if you have that solar setup, you're going to need backup from time to time. And so you have to stay connected to that grid. So if we're going to have that, when we look at right now at the cost of solar, it has been high, but it's going down, dramatically going down. The day's going to come when the average person is going to be able to have access to that technology and be able to make use of it. And so in some states, they're already allowing for on-bill financing for solar panels, where the installation is connected to the facility, not to the individual. So just as when you move, you disconnect your electricity and you go someplace else, and then the person who then takes your place and rents that apartment then turns the electricity on and begins paying, you could do the same thing with solar energy, so that the individual is not the one bearing all the cost of that. There are all kinds of creative things that are being done and need to be expanded upon. You know, I want to go back to the issue of education and training, because we have so many young people in the room, and I always take an opportunity when I have folks from all the utilities in the room to remind them that we have to work and they have to make a commitment to developing that pipeline. And we have young folks in the room who are thinking about engineering and all the kinds of careers in the energy sector that are growing and growing quickly. And we have in Illinois a program called the Illinois Learning Energy Exchange, and it works out of Illinois State University, and it's working with high schools to get kids in high schools on track, on the pathway towards an energy career. And then I look at a program like Illinois State and the graduate program at Illinois State that trains people on utility regulation and other kinds of issues, energy issues. And I see very little Latino participation in those programs. At Illinois State, there are 50, when I last checked, 50 graduate students in that program, and none were Latino. And half of those students were international students. They weren't from Illinois. And yet, the Illinois Commerce Commission regularly hires graduates from that program to work in our different divisions. Utilities, they hire folks from that program. We've got to feed that pipeline, and we have to do it aggressively, and we just can't stand back. The other thing I want to mention is the supplier diversity. Senator Sandoval here sponsored a bill that requires utilities to report annually to the Illinois Commerce Commission on their spending on minority businesses, women, veteran, and minority-owned businesses. The goal is to increase the diversity of the suppliers that they use. You recall I said a while ago that they're spending billions and billions of dollars. Well, some of those dollars need to be spent on our businesses. And there has to be even some hand-holding to help businesses develop. The report that Senator Sandoval put into place gives us those numbers on an annual basis, and now with an amendment that was passed this year, it requires the Illinois Commerce Commission on an annual basis to conduct a kind of hearing to look at those numbers and assess those numbers and work with utilities, in partnership with utilities, to improve those numbers. That's extremely important, because that's where the jobs come from. Our small businesses generate jobs, but also, of course, the utilities have to open up their doors and look for how it is that through involvement in the education programs, they create that pipeline so that our young folks that are sitting in the room become engineers and are able to work for these utilities. Because there's nothing like going to school and being connected by way of work-based learning opportunities and internships and other kinds of opportunities, being connected to industries that you know have a job waiting for you. You know, when you consider the cost of higher education, the main question that parents ask themselves these days, and I heard it last night on a program, was when my son or daughter graduates from college and we agree to all these loans, because we have over $1 trillion in student loan debt right now, you know, will my son and daughter have a job, or will they end up living back home in my basement? Or in their old bedroom, because they can't find a job even though they have credentials. And so that's why those connections early on are so important. And what Senator Sandoval has done with his legislation, and what the state is doing with the Energy Pathways Program, and what the utilities are doing, because ComEd has a couple of wonderful programs. I don't want to steal their thunder, but they have a number of programs in place, particularly one for girls, that gets girls into the engineering and the science, technology, engineering, and math fields. And so there are a lot of good things going on. ComEd has a training center that they've put together. When I visited the ComEd Training Center in Rockford and I saw people being trained as linemen, I saw one female, an African-American female, one female, that was it. That has to change. Those jobs have to open up for women also. And so so we'll hear more about that today. And again, I want to thank Senator Sandoval for his leadership on the Energy Committee and here with the caucus. And there are other folks here in the room. I want to acknowledge Jose Perez, who's with Latinos in Energy, Hispanics in same thing, isn't it? Interchangeable, right? We can get into a real philosophical and ideological discussion about the difference, but he's doing a wonderful job across the country, and he has been here. The Illinois Commerce Commission had him in. One of the ideas that he was promoting when he came in was the idea of promoting and developing a council, a diversity council within the utility sector, and that's on the way. It's being developed as we speak, and you'll probably hear more about that today. So again, thank you for the opportunity, and thank you, Senator Sandoval, for your leadership, and I appreciate the courtesy of letting me go to the next panel. Good. Thank you.
Let's hear it for the great Senator Miguel del Valle. Yes. Miguel, I am charged up and electrified. Sure knows how to give a speech, that's for sure. He's hasn't lost his spirit. Well, we're about to start our panel then, and you know, for those how many have been to this conference before? Raise your hand. All right. How many first time? All right. Well, I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna give you a piece of advice. I hate going to conferences. I remember when I was sitting in that chair, you sit there and it's early in the morning, you travel about an hour to get here and an hour to get up early. It was an early morning for all of you. And you know what? It was rough, and you got here and then you heard it was just some boring. And you're halfway through the thing, you're like glossy-eyed, like what time is lunch? And let's get the hell out of here. You know what? And so anytime I'm involved in one of these things, I try to make it interesting, you know? So maybe a little Oprah type style, a little Donahue style, you know, a little Maury Povich style, but we'll try to make it interesting because we'll try to make it fast-tracked and amusing and interesting and fact-finding for all of you. You know, as Senator del Valle indicated, we've got the giants of industry here today, of the utility industry. It is really, out of respect, it shows that these utility corporations have a lot of respect for this growing, emerging Latino community in this country. And it is my hat off to Peoples and ComEd and NICOR and Ameren for sending their top executive, if not the number 2 executive, to come to our panel here today. Let's give them the energy industry a round of applause. I'm not going to read their bios because that would be boring to all of us, right? Because there he goes. He's going to give the whole bio of all these folks. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to introduce them, and I'm going to allow them to give an opening statement, tell us a little bit about yourself, you know, the 30-second commercial, and maybe an opening statement and a reaction to Senator del Valle's setting the tone here this morning. So first we have John Klaczynski. Is that correct, John? Yep. John Klaczynski, President of Peoples Gas and North Shore Gas. We have Elizabeth Reese, President of NICOR Gas and Senior Vice President of AGL Resources. Ronald D. Pate, Senior Vice President, Operations and Technical Services, Ameren, Illinois. And we have our gran amigo, probably the first Latino and probably the only Latino, Hispanic, senior executive, number 2 guy at one of the largest public utilities in the country. Senior Vice President, Legislative External Affairs, Chief Government and Community Relations Officer, Fidel Marquez Jr. from ComEd. So Fidel. We're going to start with the women first. I'm 4 women. I have 3 women at home. They outrule and outnumber me and Marty Jr., so we're going to let Elizabeth Reese, President of NICOR Gas, to give a little bit about herself and give us a reaction to Senator Miguel del Valle's opening statement. President Reese,
Thank you.
you may from your chair.
Thank you.
Give her a round of applause, folks.
So I actually have some prepared remarks, and we're going to show a video as well. So one of my teammates is going to come up. But good morning on behalf of Nicor Gas and our 2,000 employees as part of our family. I'm pleased to be here today. I see a number of familiar faces, but some of you have not met before, certainly not the students. So I'd like to extend a special welcome to those of you who are just learning about who Nicor Gas is, and those of you who live in the city of Chicago may not know who Nicor Gas is. So hopefully you'll learn a little bit about us today. We are responsible for delivering natural gas, an American, abundant, and affordable product, safely and reliably to more than 2.2 million customers in northern Illinois. And I'm really excited about our work and our team, and I have a quick video that tells a little bit more about our company, more than I could, and it is just animation and music. There's no words, so don't be thinking that you're not hearing something, because it's not there. Hopefully it will tee up. I love that video. Who knew you could learn so much about a company in natural gas from animation? As a company, we're really excited about being here today, and I have a number of my team members here, and we have a booth out in the booth area, both for careers in energy and careers at Nicor Gas, as well as for supplier diversity. So I hope that you take a few moments to visit our team. We have a great story, and we're excited about the opportunities, as Commissioner DeValier referred to, about the opportunities on the horizon to expand relationships, share our story as a great employer, and I was really glad to hear him plug the industry as a great place to work. And we also are focusing on increasing our opportunities with diverse suppliers and contractors, particularly in the Latino community. As the leader of Nicor Gas and the first woman president of the organization, fostering, promoting, thank you. Fostering, promoting, and advocating for a diverse and inclusive company, both for our employees and our supplier base, is something that I'm passionate about. And I really want to take a moment to thank the public officials who are here today who share this passion and commitment, and you've heard it from two of them today, Senator Sandoval and Commissioner DeValier, both very, very passionate about this topic. And there are others who are here today that I know are also as passionate about this, and we'll be hearing from them, I'm sure, from the panel later today. I'd also like to thank my fellow panelists here today, and for the ILLCF, it's a big mouthful actually, Board of Directors, for this wonderful opportunity to be here today. There are some exciting changes, and I just want to share a little bit more about that. At the core of our business, and we referred to it a little bit here in the video, we design, install, operate, and maintain pipeline infrastructure. And each year we make significant investments in that infrastructure to ensure that it safely and reliably delivers the gas on those coldest days of the year. We got a little bit of a preview of that earlier this week, I might add. And so consequently, the services that we have, on the Commissioner DeValier talked about all the things that we do. that most of the spend that we do every day is really focused on making sure that those pipes are doing what they're supposed to do. And that, as Commissioner DeValier said, you don't wake up worrying if your house is going to be warm. Or as you're driving home, you don't think, gee, I really hope it's warm inside. You know it's going to be. That's what our job is. And with the support of Commissioner Miguel DeValier, we recently received the ICC approval, the Illinois Commerce Commission approval, on our qualifying infrastructure plant tariff, which is what the Commissioner referred to in his opening remarks. This allows for recovery of pipeline infrastructure investments across northern Illinois and is part of the Natural Gas Consumer Safety and Reliability Act that the Senator referred to, that was approved by the Illinois General Assembly in 2013. It really does focus on accelerating the modernization of our infrastructure. Now, Nicor Gas's infrastructure is a little bit younger than Peoples. We don't have a 150-year-old pipe, although we did at one point have wooden pipe in our territory. All of that, I'm glad to report, is out of the system. But we do have old pipe that needs to be replaced. The legislation that we go under for the natural gas side is a little bit different than the electric side, and you'll hear from my colleagues on the electric companies. And the work that we're doing is very precisely prescribed and defined and limited in scope, although very, very important. So next year, so what does that mean for us, right? Give me some context. Next year, our capital expenditures are projected to be roughly $350 million, $300 million of which will be spent on infrastructure, again, to provide that great product that we have safely and reliably. Approximately 1/2 of these expenditures are a direct result of this tariff, so we get to increase our capital spend tremendously. We call our program, and you'll start seeing it if you're a customer of ours on your bill inserts in the month of December, and you'll start seeing a lot of this branding out there. We call this Investing in Illinois, a Nicor Gas System Improvement Initiative. It is a 9-year initiative, starts next year, and it will allow us to continue to meet the growing demand for our product. We are expanding our internal teams as a result of investing in Illinois. We're expanding relationships with our current partners, some of whom are here today. We are also initiating many new business partnerships across numerous fields, while continuing to focus on spending, and Commissioner DeValier said this, in a prudent manner, always important for us. So Commissioner DeValier also talked about this industry as a great place to work, and we don't do a very good job of self-promoting. So we are trying to do a little bit of that, about thinking about us as a career. So the students in the room really do hope that you take time to stop by our booth and talk about what would it look like to work for us after you graduate. We've participated in Careers in Energy Week. We've done a lot of advertising. We support STEM initiatives with our colleagues. We're a big supporter of the Energy Learning Exchange that Commissioner DeValier talked about. One of our team members, I'm proud to say, is a graduate of Illinois State University in the program Commissioner DeValier referred to. So, we want to make sure that we attract and retain top talent that reflects the communities we serve, and that's very important. We are very focused on supplier diversity. We'll talk more about that, I'm sure, with the Senator. I just want to remind everybody that we have 4 foundations of our supplier diversity program: advocacy, development, procurement, and reporting. All 4 are very important. This past year, we spent quite a bit of time focused on advocacy. You'll start to see Nicor Gas continue to do advocacy. That's how we learn who's out there. You'll start to see us move more and more towards development. So taking the people that we meet and really develop them so that they have the skills that best match what we're trying to accomplish. We have a goal of trying to reach at least 20% of our spend with minority, women, and veteran-owned businesses within the next few years. And we know this goal can't be reached overnight, but we are making progress on that, and we know the steps that we need to take to get there. We have relationships with our contractors, and those relationships are not built overnight. Sometimes you'll feel like you attend meeting after meeting after meeting, but we assure you that that makes steps in the progress and in the process. We're also, as Commissioner DeValier mentioned, we're also working together collaboratively, the 4 of us and some other of the utilities, the Illinois American Water and Mid-American Energy, are working on this development of an Illinois Utility Supplier Diversity Council, and I don't want to brand it that way because I'm not sure that's exactly how it will be branded, but we are making progress on that. We have an external person who's helping us on that. We're thrilled to be making progress on that. So, Senator Sandoval, it took a little bit longer than perhaps you expected, but I hope I touched on some of the issues and look forward to the
It's all
conversation.
right, when my wife speaks in my house, she gets a lot anytime she wants. Absolutely.
Well, thank you for having us today. We
Absolutely.
appre-
Thank you.
we appreciate it.
Let's go to President John Klaczynski, People's Gas and North Shore Gas. John, did you come in from Wisconsin?
No, I didn't.
Okay, good.
I'm a Chicagoan.
Right, let's hear it. These, People's Gas now is headquartered in Wisconsin, correct?
Well, People's Gas, the utility itself is headquartered in Chicago.
Chicago.
But our parent company is in Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
Yep.
Welcome, President Klaczynski.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Sandoval, and good morning. I'm John Klaczynski, and I'm the president of People's Gas and North Shore Gas. We serve the city of Chicago and 54 communities in the northern suburbs. And it's a wonderful to see such a diverse and engaged audience here today, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to be part of a panel with my utility peers advancing a common goal of ensuring our customers have the energy they need and a highly skilled, diverse workforce to deliver it safely and efficiently. And just to tell you a little bit about myself before I get into a couple of slides here that I'll show, is I do consider myself a lifelong Chicagoan. So my entire career I've either lived and or worked in Chicago. I'm a St. Patrick High School graduate from the north side, and I'm a DePaul graduate as well. And while I've only been in this role for about 2 months now, I have been with the organization for a little over 28 years and have been an employee of either People's Gas, North Shore Gas, or our parent company, Integris. And that was where my last role was, where I led the labor and employee relations functions for Integris's gas group. So, just to talk a little bit about our company, People's Gas has been doing this for nearly 165 years. And Senator DeValle's comment about the age of some of our gas pipes, we're proud to say we're from the land of Lincoln, but not necessarily proud that we have pipes from the time of Lincoln. But there's not that many of them, and that's the good news, and we are replacing them. But we've grown from lighting up the city's first street lamps on Lake Street in 1850 to a business of more than 1,300 employees who are dedicated to delivering natural gas service to our nearly 1 million customers, ensuring they have a hot shower when they wake up in the morning and a warm place to come home and cook dinner in the evening. You know, playing on Beth's comments, we want that to happen without fail. It's an awesome responsibility we have, and we take it very seriously. We're committed to doing our job safely in a cost-efficient way and to our customers' satisfaction each and every day. And it's that awesome responsibility that we believe we do have when we look at, we heat homes, but we also have a very important role in industry in terms of it being our product being a process fuel, as well as having important roles in the cooking of food, as well as sterilizing equipment. Over the years, we have taken great care to invest in a diverse and highly skilled workforce to design, build, maintain, and operate a system that is adapted and expanded with Chicago itself. And as natural gas has evolved from the primary lighting source to the primary heating source at the turn of the century. So it's important to note that for the first 130 years or so, our business was about both construction and operations. But by the 1980s, People's Gas was mostly focused on operating and maintaining the system, which included upgrading around 45 miles of pipe annually. Our engineers and technicians do a tremendous job, but the amount of maintenance that goes into keeping our 4,000-mile system operating has grown significantly. And we, along with our industry, recognize the need to eradicate the use of higher-risk materials like iron and bare steel pipe, as they are most prone to leaks, cracks, and breaks. And so I mentioned the 45 miles of pipe that we do annually. What I'll talk about next is how we've ramped that up, and our goal is to replace somewhere between 100 and 150 miles on an annual basis. And that really began in the spring of 2011 when People's Gas embarked upon an accelerated construction program designed to condense 40 years of upgrading our infrastructure into 20. This scale of construction hadn't been attempted by our company in over 50 years. And we have 4 main goals for doing that. One is to replace the older iron gas pipes in our system with polyethylene. A second goal is to upgrade the system to more modern medium pressure. 3, move our meters outside for emergency access and less disruption to the customer. And 4, deliver the benefits of a long-term safety, reliability, and lower operating and maintenance costs to our customers. Additionally, though, all that work brings 2 big opportunities from this program as well, in their job creation and increased opportunities to mentor and develop long-term relationships with minority, women, veteran, and small business enterprise suppliers. In just 3.5 years, we've maintained good pace on our infrastructure program, and a huge part of that is due to the Illinois General Assembly's recognition that legislation was needed to ensure the natural gas industry could have the confidence to invest in system upgrades that will benefit consumers, preserve jobs, boost our state's economy, and protect the environment. So thank you for that. As our 20-year construction program continues, we recognize we have continued opportunities to expand our supplier network and increase spending with diverse suppliers. In 2014, we increased our outreach efforts, including launching Peoples Gas's own Supplier Diversity Forum to help attract new suppliers and educate them on our business and project needs, help guide businesses through the registration process for Peoples Gas, connect them to our primary suppliers who can subcontract out work to diverse suppliers. We also work with suppliers by mentoring businesses and working with our community partners like the Women's Business Development Center on their Veteranpreneurship, which is a program that supports and educates female veterans pursuing self-employment or business ownership. At Peoples Gas, we take great pride in the diversity of our workforce. In fact, fostering diversity and inclusion is one of our corporate commitments. But it goes deeper than that. I'm also proud to say we have a very strong workforce development program that starts at a young age with our commitment to Chicago Public Schools and STEM programs. From science clubs and tutoring to learning about women in space and careers in energy, Peoples Gas works with Chicago's youth to support and inspire. And each year during Careers in Energy Week, our engineers and technicians head back to the classroom to encourage students to consider a career in energy industry. ACE Tech is one of our partner schools for this initiative, and this year we added several others, including Benito Juarez, to our partner list. Peoples Gas also has a unique training to placement program with our union in Chicago City Colleges, which targets veterans for energy careers in the natural gas industry. Retired Peoples Gas instructors teach in practical classrooms at Dawson Tech, which is a satellite location of Kennedy King College, where students earn their gas utility worker advanced certification and a 1-month paid internship with Peoples Gas. I'm pleased to say that so far we have hired 107 graduates of this program since its start 2.5 years ago. Another 20 are in class right now, and we have several cohorts planned for next year. That's a program that I'm very excited about personally, having worked with our in-house union, the Gas Workers Union, and its leader, Rick Passarelli, to negotiate this particular program. And what our goal was to try to be able to provide not only jobs, but careers. And you see a gentleman holding up his offer of employment here in this picture. This is one of the veterans that we brought on through the program. And this program is unique from the standpoint in our company's history is that it's bringing folks into our organization, not in an entry-level position, but basically at a craft position. So it, in effect, is allowing them to support a family returning from the military. The investments we're making today in our infrastructure, our suppliers, and our employees are all focused on delivering the safe, reliable service our customers expect and deserve. Customer satisfaction is a key priority for our business. It starts with providing natural gas service and extends to keeping our customers safe, helping them save, and offering financial assistance or support. The weather this week brings back vivid memories of last year's winter, the polar vortex, and so we're working hard to help our customers prepare for this winter. From routinely giving out safety tips in our customer communications to actually weatherproofing our customers' homes by covering windows with plastic sheeting and applying weather stripping around doors to helping our customers install free energy efficiency equipment through our Home Energy Jumpstart program in partnership with ComEd, to offering support and financial assistance of over $150 million that is available to Illinois customers through energy assistance programs like LIHEAP, or through Share the Warmth programming, which is a Peoples Gas specific program created in partnership with the city. So I'd just like to end by giving you 3 key points. Peoples Gas is grateful to you for your continued support, and don't ever let us take that for granted. Secondly, we are proud of our 165-year history of safe, reliable service to our customers and communities. And lastly, we are committed to building on that history and our partnerships to make the next 100 years even better. Thank you.
Next, we have a gentleman that for many years we've been watching on TV. Anytime there was a power outage or something was going on with our lights, we'd see him on TV because he was running the overall ComEd's customer operations, and he's an engineer by trade, and we'd see him a lot on TV, and now we see him a little more, and we see him a little more around the halls of the General Assembly talking to us, talking about his company. We have the Senior Vice President, Fidel Marquez Jr. ComEd.
Thank you, Senator, and again, thank you and the Board of Directors for inviting us here today. Myself, along with my colleagues, you'll hear a lot of the same things. In fact, we work very closely together because one thing we have in common is the people in the communities in which we serve, and we're really dedicated to those communities. And I think, John, you said it best, don't let us, make sure you hold us accountable. Don't let us take you for granted. It's a very excellent point. As the Senator indicated, yes, I am an engineer by training. For the students out there, I started as an intern many decades ago. And I don't do much engineering today. The Senator did mention that I'm often on TV when there's severe storms and I'm talking to the media about it. And my mom, being a Mexican mother, is always very proud of watching me on TV, wants to know what channel I'm going to be on, and sets up the recording. But I have to remind her, if I'm on TV, it's not good. But she doesn't seem to care about that. Commissioner Del Valle described the EIMA, the Energy Infrastructure Modernization Act, that was passed by the General Assembly in 2011. That act, and I got to give the Senator and his colleagues, I saw Representative Acevedo earlier in this room, really took a leap of faith in passing this law. It was their courage, really their vision, that said, okay, utilities, this all sounds good. We're going to pass this law. We're going to let you make the investments. But at the same time, we're going to hold you accountable. You need to deliver on the promises. You need to deliver the value you claim this will deliver, and go at it. And we did. For ComEd, the legislation represented a $2.6 billion additional investment in the infrastructure over 10+ years. We are 3 years into this investments, and they're already paying off in ways that we really didn't realize the extent they were going to benefit the customers and our communities. In fact, just this week, Gridwise Alliance, it's a coalition of industry stakeholders, released their report, their 2014 report on grid. They have a grid modernization index that really measures state by state how well the grids are being modernized, not just from an infrastructure standpoint, but having the laws and the regulatory structures in place that will continue to allow the modernization to take place. It was just released this past Tuesday, and Illinois ranks number 3 in the nation in grid modernization, only behind California and Texas, who have about 5 to 8 years ahead of us in Illinois in modernizing the grid. So really, congratulations to the General Assembly. Congratulations to the General Assembly for having the courage and the vision to do this. Like I said, just 3 years into it, and already 1 million outages to customers have been avoided because of the smart grid that's being put in place, the improvement to the cables and the poles that are being done today. We all know and recognize, mentioned polar vortex, but weather seems to be getting more severe and more uncertain. Certainly in the last 5 years, we've seen that across the country. And storms become more violent, more widespread, faster moving, the whole 9 yards. And we've invested in storm hardening, making the system more resilient to those storms. And again, just in these past 3 years, we have reduced the amount of time it takes to recover from a storm by 30%. And again, this is all to the investments due to the grid the smart grid law. So much so that in 2013, our reliability was the top 10% of comparable companies in the U.S. and certainly the best in company history. We talked about the smart meters that are being deployed. In fact, in the Latino community was one of the first communities to receive the smart meters when we deployed them in Humboldt Park, Cicero, and Berwyn, and we're continuing the deployment today. These meters will allow us to even restore customers faster during storms, but more importantly, as Commissioner Del Valle indicated, it will allow the customers to better monitor their energy usage and be able to save money, making more choices on how they use their energy and when they use their energy. But the General Assembly also recognized that beyond just the infrastructure itself, they recognize really the multi-dimensional power the utility brings. They recognize that we could be a partner to energize our economy even beyond the poles and wires. Commissioner Del Valle mentioned that part of this, that we were going to create 2,000 jobs. Well, we missed that mark. We created 3,500 jobs so far. And it was already been mentioned, really for a company to ComEd to be successful in a program like this, we have to have successful partners, successful vendors, contractors, and suppliers to be partners with us on the journey along the way. Both as prime contractors or subcontractors, it's very important that we identify who they are, and as mentioned, develop those contractors to really work in our environment, and we will continue to do that. In 2013, part of our investment was pumping in $763 million into Illinois businesses alone. Of that, $315 million went to diverse supply chain, which really was, and created 8 new companies along the way. 763 pumped into Illinois, 315 of that went to diverse suppliers. It's a beginning, and we're going to continue to do more. On the Latino side, Latino-owned businesses, we went from a $17 million spend in 2013, and to date in 2014, that's up $10 million to $27 million, almost a 60% improvement. We got more room to go. It's a beginning, but we are committed to identifying those suppliers, those vendors, working with mentoring and developing them along the way. In 2014, by the way, we added over 40 new diverse suppliers to the ComEd team, just in 2014 alone. Again, working with our vendors, we are looking for long-term partners here. Sustainability of our vendors is key, helping them understand how we work, our processes, what we expect from them. And we have pretty high standards. We have high standards for our own workforce, and we expect the same from our contractors' workforce, where safety, productivity, diversity, and performance are all evaluated on a regular basis. You just can't throw them out there. We got to help develop them, because all vendors are set up from the beginning. Beyond the supplier spend, Commissioner Del Valle mentioned the training center that he saw out in Rockford. Last month in October, we broke ground on a new training center in Bridgeport. Senator Sandoval was there for that ceremony. We have a goal for that training center to be 100%, I'll say that again, 100% minority business enterprise for its construction. That represents $12 million to build that training center, which will open up in the end of 2015. And on the workforce development side, we also announced that day, the training center, that in a partnership with the mayor and Chicago Public Schools, we are having that training center, and we're calling it the ComEd Energy Academy. We're creating a program with the Chicago Public Schools, which will train 100 juniors and seniors in the Chicago Public Schools as an entree into our industry. It's a new program, haven't done this before. We're looking forward to working with Chicago Public Schools in this program. In terms of pipeline, just wanted to highlight, we talked about STEM, big area for us, for those students out there. We created a management pipeline program. It's funny that he used the term pipeline, Commissioner Del Valle. But this past summer, ComEd hired 133 college interns. 41% of those were minority, 33% female. These college interns were hired so that they would have an entry into ComEd positions in the fields that were identified, such as engineering, IT, accounting, and other management areas. Like Peoples, we work with Dawson Tech. We've had a longer partnership with creating linemen in there. But probably one of the programs that makes me more excited than any other is that we saw in the workforce at large, not just coming into ComEd, but on the labor side, that we were very underrepresented in this industry. Both women and minorities were not coming into the labor pipeline. Working with 4 different community organizations, 18 different vendors, we created a program that would introduce candidates in an 8-week program to the utility construction industry. We call it Construct. It's just the beginning. We've had 88 graduates, 58 have been hired into positions. I see some folks here from HBK Engineering. They're one of the 18 partners, and they've actually hired 1 or 2 folks directly into that program, giving someone an opportunity for a huge career. So the smart grid law not only is going to improve the infrastructure and the service to our customers, but it certainly represents an opportunity for employment and for businesses here in the future. The opportunity is there. Thank you.
Well, let's finish up with our friend from to the south. Let's hear it for Ron Pate, the Senior Vice President of Operational Technical Services at Ameren, Illinois. Ronald?
Thank you. Thank you, Senator. You know, it's difficult to be on a panel like this because if you're last, you can basically say, yeah, what they said. But I will give you a little
It's a pretty good position to be in.
Yeah, it is. It is. But before I get started there, kind of referring to the commissioner and the question about what do you think about the commissioner's points. You know, he left us with something that we kind of joked at, I think, when we said, you know, can a utility be exciting? Folks, I've been in the utility business for 35 years plus. Give you some idea my age, yeah, but let me tell you, it is an exciting time. You're hearing some from my colleagues, what's going on here. We're taking an industry that is well over 100 years old and material in the ground that's well over 100 years old, and we're modernizing that now. And we're doing that in a time, thanks to the General Assembly, that will allow us to hold the customer's bills reasonable. We're looking at the commodity price being down, so you can invest in your infrastructure and keep the bills where they should be for the customer. We know the customer impact, so it is a very exciting time. And I might say, too, for our younger folks in the audience here, there is great opportunity here also. I started out as a meter reader some 35 years ago. I got out of college and had a job as an assistant manager at a garment factory, and I'm a farm boy, and I couldn't stand it. Had a meter reader. They would come in and read meters, and I said, I want your job. He said, you got a college education. You don't want that job. I said, how much you make? I said, yeah, I want your job, you know? So it really is a great opportunity here. So a little bit about myself, but now let's talk about the company because I want you to shift the thinking from up north to down south, if you will. Here's the footprint of Ameren, Illinois. I'm specifically going to be talking about Ameren, Illinois today. We serve 1.2 million electric customers, as well as over 800,000 gas customers. So with my colleagues, I'm a little bit unique. Our company is that we have the opportunity to take advantage of both the electric legislation and the gas legislation that's been talked about. In 2011, we've heard my colleagues have explained what that is, and again, we're able to take advantage of that with modernizing the grid, moving to a formula rate making sure that the money we invest is done prudently, as we've mentioned. What that meant for us is that we have committed to spend over $645 million in the next 10 years. Those are incremental dollars to what we spend already today. So these are above and beyond, and we talk about the need for employees and need for contractors where that comes in at. On the natural gas side, we've committed to spend nearly $600 million over the next 9 years on investments on the gas side. We are a bit more fortunate than you are, John. We don't have any cast iron in the ground, but we've got some aged other pipe that needs to replace there as well. So a lot of work done on that. Talk a little bit about the work that's being done there. And again, this is where I can say, what they said, because it's pretty much all concentrated on the same thing. What we're doing is building reliability in our systems and safety in our systems. And, we understand the customers' expectations are just growing all the time. It used to be okay when you had a small storm on the electric side roll through the area, and if it was 3 or 4 days before you recovered from it, that was acceptable. Right now, if you have a storm roll through the area, you've got about 3 or 4 hours. You better be on it and making some good progress, or you're going to hear about it. And we understand that the money that we're able to invest on infrastructure is allowing us to meet some of those metrics. The automation, the automation that we were able to put in, being able to detect around faults we have now and actually restore without having to send crews out to do patrolling. We have aging underground cable that's well past life expectancy that causes us issues, so we're able to go and replace that. The storm hardening that we heard about, we know that we have areas susceptible to cascading, if you will, where many poles will go down. We can put storm structures in and allow us to stop that cascading. On the gas side, both gas and electric side, we're putting the AMI meters in as well, which provides benefit not only to us in better service, but also to the customer. The coupled steel on the gas side, and then the transmission pipe line will be big for us, as well as the John and the other utilities in ICOR. We don't know what feds are going to come with new regulation coming down the pipe. We do know that they're going to require us to be a lot more specific on what our maximum allowable operating pressure on our existing lines are. And quite frankly, we're going to have some gaps in that, so we're going to have to go back and find a way to either prove that out or replace that pipe. And when you talk about replacing pipe in our territory, that size, that diameter, that pressure, you're talking about over $2 million a mile for that. So we know more is coming down that way. Why are we doing that? Look at the customer benefits. We've already touched on it. I won't go into detail, but improve reliability. We had you can see up there 213,000 fewer outages. Improve safety. We hear so much about our gas and incidents that have happened, whether it be in California, East Coast, West Coast. San Bruno is the one that always pops up. We need to get in there and get that replaced. Improved efficiency and improved customer energy information programs that we talked about. And again, what we have to keep in mind, not only are we increasing or improving an aging infrastructure, but we're doing it for the customer's benefit. And my colleagues have said it very well. We don't take that for granted. We make sure that we're serving our customers well. So what's that mean on the hiring side? Well, you can see in basically a little over 2 years now, we've hired 807 folks in-house. Now, we've had some retirements as well. We are pretty experienced, I'll call it, work group, so we get people leaving the door. But that's a net increase of actual in-house hires of 471. I want you to see the types of jobs. It's probably pretty consistent across the companies that are represented up here, but call center staff, electric and gas engineers, we've talked a lot about, and our electric line workers and gas system workers. And we're making a lot of effort on things that we need to do to make sure that we have a diverse workforce. Our goal is to really have a workforce that represents the community and the customers that we serve. And I'll quickly just mention a couple things because I think you probably will have interest. And we have a table outside, as NICOR and Beth had stated, we'd like you to visit for some supplier diversity initiatives that we're going on, as well as what it might look like to work at Ameren. But we have evening outreach programs where we contact the community and say we have an opportunity to hire employees in this particular area, especially looking at diversifying our workforce. And we bring in a 4-hour class at night and let them know what it is that they should be prepared for, what it looks like to work at Ameren, Illinois. We're partnering with junior colleges in an effort to get out ahead of that and see if we can glean some of those resources from them. Giving presentation to high schools, that's where it starts. We want people to start focusing on what's required to work there, whether you're going on to college and getting that engineering degree or law degree or whatever it might be, that you could concentrate those efforts when you got out and being an Ameren, Illinois employee. Also looking at you know, we don't have those meter reader jobs anymore that I talked about, and, you know, I kind of like those. That's how I got started, right? So we're looking at adding some entry-level jobs, whether they be in the line or gas department, more of a labor type, to expose people to that type of work so they can gain the skills that they may not have, and then after a certain period of time, be able to have them pass the CAS test and other requirements so they can get in the program. And then we're hiring a number of interns. I think last year, over the summer, we hired about 50 interns to work for us to give them exposure as well. So again, not everything we want to do. We still have a lot of work to do that way, but we're making pretty good gains on that. The economic impact, just quickly cover the full-time equivalent employees we talked about. You know, the contractors, you know, it's not just in-house, it's contractors. We need to utilize those, and we make great efforts in working with our contractors to make sure that they also have a representative workforce. And, you know, we actually are partnering right now. We don't have details yet, but one of our contractors is willing to start up at least one minority contractor, a vendor that would help us out in the areas that we need that, whether it be line, gas, we're not sure yet, but they're willing to actually fund that to get that started as they do work for us. So some good things happening there. Our diverse spend, up to between 13 and thus year-to-date 124 million. Types of services that some of you may be able to provide. And again, I encourage you to go out and see Byron at our table to find out what the opportunities are, but certainly in the electric and gas construction, vegetation management, IT materials, and even HR services and stuff that we look at to expand them. So I just quickly summarize it here. You know, to the senator and his colleagues in the General Assembly, I say thank you. I think it's proving beneficial for our customers. Also, the Illinois economy, as you can see the jobs that are hired, the Illinois businesses certainly, which some of you are very much a part of, and the state of Illinois. So we see great benefits in that and want to continue down that path. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, let's get a little action going on, right? That's like a little discussion going on. If you have any questions, be ready to ask them. I'll be asking a few questions myself, and then I'll ask the general public to ask any questions they may have. Just to raise their hands, how many of those in the room that are not work for a utility, associated with a utility, or do work for a utility? Raise your hand. All right, so that's a good number. You guys have packed the house, here, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Ladies. You know, so what you heard this morning from Senator DeValle and what you're hearing from the panel members, and if you don't know, there is a boom. We are about, just as this country moved in 2008 and 2009 with President Obama, as he got elected to office, to put people back to work, get the economy moving, we also were having that discussion at the state level. And we realized that one of the ways, and we were convinced by the utility industry, that one of the ways that we can help put people back to work as well as increase reliability and efficiency of delivery of our utility services, both gas and electric, was to invest in its infrastructure. We do a very, very lousy job at investing in our infrastructure in America, whether it be transportation, of which I know little of because I'm the chairman of the Transportation Committee, or the Energy Committee, of which I've been the most senior Latino on the Energy Committee in the Illinois Senate. We, us Americans, do a terrible job at looking, you know, just beyond our nose. We don't like to look that far. And when you hear about the 100-year-old pipe and the 150-year-old pipe, well, because we don't like to look at 100 years from now. And so we just look at what's going on in the next couple of years. And so then what happens is, you know, we start, you know, when there's a storm comes, we lose our lights, or you know, when someone's building a home next door, they crack a pipe, or, you know, and then people start, you know, crying and calling and saying, what's going on? Where's my light? Where's my gas? Well, because we haven't spent any time on maintenance or upgrading our services. And so we passed a bill. We've been passing bills to modernize our infrastructure as it relates to utility companies. So provide reliable service, more efficient service, more cost-effective service. And in exchange, they said they will hire more of us, put people back to work. They would hire more women and minorities. And in fact, we're gonna hire more and give more opportunities to minority businesses. And as that was going on, I kind of got a sense, well, how are we going to track that? That sounds nice, right? Got these big utility companies coming to Springfield saying, we're going to help you. Help me help you. But I quickly realized that there was no way to make them accountable. And so I worked with one of my colleagues in the Illinois House to come up with a bill to create some accountability. Well, why don't you report to us then? Tell us every year what you're doing. So now there's a law that says, utilities, tell us how many, when it comes to procurement, how many people are you giving opportunities to? How many Latino business, how many African American, how many minority business, how many veteran organizations, how many people are you really helping? And so we've got some of the reports, and the good news is that they've all committed to doing good. And some of them in the second year reporting are doing a little bit better. But the reality is that, folks, you've got a lot of work to do. And, I don't know if anyone around here is waiting for 10 years to happen or 100 years to go by to wait for success, but we want it now. And so, in fact, the people in Illinois and throughout the country sent a real loud message on November 4th to a lot of us. And we want action now. We don't like what's going on. We want to move forward. So change spread through the land of Lincoln on November 4th, and we got a new governor. And there's a strong message there. And I think the message that we want to bring, the Illinois Legislative Latino Caucus, is that we want change too, and we want it now. There's a president of Mexico that once said, "Hoy, no mañana." And there's us. I could say I'm Mexican. We always like to say, "Nah, ay mañana. We'll take care of it tomorrow," right? Well, we got to change those habits. We want it today. I want it now. I want to be satisfied now. And so when we looked at the reports, me and my colleagues, we saw some improvement. We also saw that, because I'd like to get your reactions. Just stay tuned, because I'm going to ask you. What I also saw was that women do real well. And my wife's in the crowd, and my daughter's in the crowd, and this is not geared toward either one of you two. That's Marina and Angie Sandoval sitting in the back there, so you can give them a round of applause. Yeah. I love women. They're beautiful, and I have a few in my life. Three. My two daughters and my wife. Get that correct. I want to be correct there. The women are doing real well. Utility company. In fact, if you look at the numbers for 2013 and 2012, women do fantastic. They do better than both combined blacks and Latinos together. They do better than blacks, Latinos, and veterans together. So I was a little surprised by that. And in fact, if I ask the questions and ask for more information, I probably find that and I say that respectfully, using the term that the government uses, more white women do better than blacks and Latinos put together on these reports. And so I think there's a significant amount of work to be done. And so I'm not going to get into the numbers, but the women numbers are like double digits, where the minority numbers are single digits in the basement. Getting better, but moving very, very slow. Like almost you can't see it on the thermometer. And so I'm excited about seeing and the passion and the reports that's going on. I'm excited about seeing women at the helm of a major utility company. I'm excited about seeing Latinos. Yeah, I think Ahmed did the right thing over there, Fidel Marquez. And, even our Cub fans, Northsiders. The Northsiders are downstairs, yeah. And to see somebody, a career veteran, that's both of them, career veterans that have worked from the ground floor up to run their organizations, it's a compliment. And that's what we want to see. That's what we want to see. We want to see these companies bring in folks from the ground up through their management ranks to become leaders. But folks, tell us a little bit about, or react a little bit about the numbers. And I know that everyone, when you hear leaders, and you hear this from politicians too, we're going to do better. Well, what does that mean, right? there's like one, where's the beef, right? How exactly are you going to do that? What are some of the processes? You know, for example, a couple years ago, who watches Undercover Boss? I love that show. The CEO shows up and he's cooking the burgers and no one knows that he's the boss, and you see the atrocities that people do cooking burgers and that type of thing. I did that a couple years ago, and I visited the Walgreens Corporation. I visited a couple utility companies, major corporations in Illinois, and because we get approached by small businesses all the time. And I assure you, if you're a small business, you've gone to their websites, and you've gone to all these corporate giants' websites, and they all have got real beautiful websites. They've got diversity programs and diversity all this and diversity all that, but my experience was when I was calling all these places, you never get anybody. You can't talk to a person. And when you try to then, and if you finally got somebody, they take your name, your number down, and you never hear from them again. And so when you say we're all going to do better and we're going to charge hard on providing primarily on increasing the base of minority and women and veteran businesses, how exactly are you doing? That's important to the public here today. How exactly are you? Have you made it part of the corporate values of your corporation? Is it instilled? Do you make your managers accountable? Because the other thing that happens is that the leaders say, yeah, this is important to us, rah, rah, yeah, let's go, we're going to do this. But, those division managers, well, they say, well, I like the guy that I use, and I'm not going to change him because I like who I use. And so my experience has been also that sometimes that the value doesn't really get passed on down throughout the chain, and that these managers in all these different divisions who have been there for years, who are not necessarily minorities or women, feel pretty comfortable who they've been using all these years. And so how are we changing that? How are we making those managers accountable to these new corporate values? They don't know anything about smart grid and about the work that you have to do when you sit down with politicians, and they don't know that you're getting beat up by the politicians and telling you to do more. How are they feeling it back at home? Because they're like unaccountable to us. It's a little reaction. That was a lot, but Fidel?
Yeah, if I could start, your last comments sound like some of the discussions we've had internally. I was like, he must have been there, or someone told him, or. But I think the dynamic you described is pretty accurate. We've been working with some of our partners for many, many years, and like with anything, you get comfortable. You working with that vendor, working with that contractor. But we have to break through that. We have set up goals at the high level. We've set up committees specifically looking at it, corporate committees. In fact, I head up the ComEd's, we have a Diversity and Inclusion Council, and I head up the Committee on Supplier Diversity. And it's a cross-functional committee across the organization, different levels. And I just mentioned, we've identified over 40 new diversity suppliers in this year alone. Well, identifying them, going to procurement, and now for those suppliers to be actually running jobs is that clay layer we need to go get through. So we do challenge the managers. When I'm feeling your heat, I'm reflecting it back down into the organization, and saying that tongue in cheek, because it's the right thing to do, and we have a challenge for us ahead of time. I'll say just on Hispanic-owned businesses alone, we work with Omar Duque and the Illinois Hispanic Chamber of Commerce as we try to identify Hispanic-owned businesses. Hispanics make up over 16% of the population in Illinois, yet represent only 5% of the businesses in Illinois, only 5%. So we have to play a role, and when there's small businesses I think as Beth indicated, we have to take some accountability ourselves in mentoring and developing these businesses, so then they can become suppliers. We're at the beginnings. You're right, our original numbers were in the, I'd say last year we were in the single digits, but we broke the double digits
Good.
now, but there's still more to go, and we got to continue along their progress.
So could I ask, President Reese, when a supplier wants to do business with NICOR, when they go to the website, can you guarantee that they're going to actually speak to somebody? When they call that number?
I can't guarantee that they'll talk to somebody on the first call, because I actually don't know where that phone number goes to. But I would say that there's a couple of things, and Fidel talked about it. You described it very well. You know, when you first approach and our teams and say, we need to do this, describing to them why is sometimes challenging. And so I really enjoy it when my team gets to accompany me to events like today. And I do have a number of team members as well as one of our prime contractors here, because it's important for them to understand it too. The other issue is, we as utilities, when we go out for an RFP for a project, and this goes to your question, Senator, we don't advertise it. I mean, we don't take out and cranes a big advertorial, if you will, and say, we are getting ready to send out a bid for replacing 35 miles of cast iron pipe in Cicero. We don't do that. We reach out to our registered contractors and say, here are people that we know who are qualified, who can do the work. So one of our big efforts this year has been advocacy and trying to tell our story so we can identify people to register on the website. Now, what I can say is you may not get a call if you register on the website. You may not have that call answered, but if you're registered and you're qualified to do business with us, you should be called when we have an RFP that is in your line of business, whether it's designing, HBK, I think we referenced at one of the engineering firms, whether it's designing, building, operating, maintaining our pipe. You know, that's our source for making sure that we're as complete and diverse in every one of our RFP processes. So I really encourage people to get the word out. If you have a friend who has a business that you think should be doing business with one of us, encourage them to register. That's the only way we know that you're there.
So good response, but here's the challenge to that.
Yep.
Dealing with the ones that are qualified vendors already. Well, there's a lot of other folks that are qualified, and those who are entering, who would like to do business, you know, the reality is that if you can't get past the website and you can't get a live person to talk to somebody to go talk to them and show your wares and get qualified, you don't get qualified, so you never know about the RFP. So the challenge is to try to find a vehicle to provide greater access, because what you're providing access to a number of qualified vendors, but quite honestly, sometimes the utilities, they like their qualified vendors and they don't want to qualify anymore.
Well, and qualified is an interesting term, right?
It's a form of art.
So for us,
You're right.
when we
It's a
say
form of art.
a qualified vendor, first of all, we want, you know, when you go onto our website and you indicate that you're an MBE or WBE, there are certain rules in place that define what that means, right? So that's not what we mean by qualified. At NICOR Gas, when we mean that you're qualified, that means you have a labor force who is qualified under the federal regulations under which we operate that can touch our pipe. And that's what we mean when we mean qualified. So I don't want to think that, you know, if I'm an attorney and I do employment law, that I have a qualification. That is not the case. But you make another point that I want to make sure I share, and because you are a big supporter of this for us. This summer we hosted an event in Cicero that we worked with Senator Sandoval with to bring people in and to have some of our team members speak. We've done 3 events. We have a 4th one planned for later this year. Believe it or not, we still have another one planned. Where we're really trying to get out and tell our story and have our team members there who can engage. And it is relational. And so to your point, Senator, about the website isn't relational, that's exactly right. And so we're trying to get out there, work with HICEA, work with the Illinois Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. If there are other organizations that you think we should be working with, please tell us, because we're really trying to learn and trying to get out there and be engaged with the community and take advantage of every opportunity we can to tell our story and to meet people who have businesses that may want to work with us, or have children who may want jobs when they graduate from high school or college.
John, you want to react?
Yeah, first off, I guess I'd start by saying I think this is the Cubs' year, so. But I think there's a lot of great comments that have been made, here on the panel, and it certainly is an issue, and there's, the first thing I'd recognize is there is a lot to do. And I think one of the things that we look at is the proactive activities we can take, and we're starting to do that collectively as a group. So we've got a supplier diversity panel that's going to be starting with the utilities all working together, and I think there'll be a lot of information that'll be shared and exchanged. But at Peoples, one of the things we're doing, and we have had a relatively decent amount of success with diversity spend, and one of the things we're looking to do is, instead of making it a goal in the RFPs, is making it a requirement for our suppliers, so we can get them to start thinking about the secondary spend and partnerships that they may gain working with other minority vendors.
Ron, you had a reaction?
Yeah, and again, I can say what they said. But, in reality, we do have trouble reaching out and finding out who these qualified under the parameters that Beth talked about there. But for the last couple of years, we've been hosting a what I'll call a conference for minority vendors to come in and learn about us. And we've had tremendous attendance at those, and it just continues to grow. Byron, how many folks at the last one?
So the last one, we had about 200 or so.
Wow. Yeah, in the St. Louis Metro East. So, we're building those relationships, and that is critical. Let's know what's going on there. So that's been very successful. The other thing, too, is, as was stated here, is that when we go out for RFP, when we wait, it's not just cost, okay? It's also, we give a lot of weighting to second-tier diversity spend. What are you bringing in as subcontractors? Is that a diverse spend there as well? So concentrate on that. It's not cost, and especially understanding that when you have a small contractor just getting started, they may need some extra help. We've had a couple instances where we've had to do different things on payroll because they couldn't float for 6 weeks, the work they were doing. They had to have money in that bank account when that following week. So we've done some things, some workarounds to help them, to enable them to work on the property, to get a feel how well they can perform and help them grow, which will help us.
Yeah. Well, I would assure you, though, but if you can't find African-American, Hispanic, women, veteran-owned firms that can be qualified, well, 3/4 of the General Assembly are African-American, Hispanic, and women. And let me tell you, if those organizations can't help you find them, we know who they are. And I'm a pretty big guy. You can't miss me. So, we're easy to find and easy to track to find this community. And so let's talk about quickly, because we're very short on time, very limited, but the spirit of the conversation is what I want people to take away with. Employment. Again, for anyone who's not aware, doesn't have a friend, a relative, or cousin, or somebody that works for utility, if you're a contractor, I tell you, if you can't speak to a live voice on that website, something's wrong. And if you can't get a hold of an HR person or pull down an application on your website, perhaps, to maybe seek employment at a utility company, you're never going to, I know folks just don't show up over at NICOR headquarters and say, hey, by the way, I'm looking for a job, or at ComEd, or at Ameren. So how do you all do that? And is there a kind of, one of the things that the council should be working on is a kind of uniformed approach to maybe making public these opportunities, both from entry to developmental. What's innovative about gearing up for the new workforce at any one of your utilities? Anybody doing anything innovative?
I'm not sure it's innovative. I think, again, it's just the outreach center that we have there. when you look at being able to post a position, and depending on the area and stuff, have 100-plus people applying for that role, it's the process itself, and we've had trouble actually getting them through some testing that needs to be done, whether they didn't have the mechanical skills when they go to the evals, or whether it's perhaps some of the math skills needed. So as I stated earlier, one of the things that we're doing is setting up these classes at night. We've partnered with the junior colleges to set them through 2 Saturday mornings now, so they can prepare on the CAS test and things that they need to qualify. So I think, again, innovative, but in putting more effort towards education and getting them ready to go into that work environment at Ameren, Illinois.
John?
Well, I think we're proud of the fact that our employee population is 56% minority. We could do some more on the female side. I think that's around less than 15%. But, I'd like to think from the innovation side, the program that we created at Dawson with targeting veterans and having them come in not at an entry-level rate, but at a rate where they're basically a craft worker coming in the door after about 7 months of intensive training and internship is something different in our organization, and something that we looked at as we go forward with the amount of pipe that we're going to be replacing that you saw on our slides. We're basically going to be replacing half of our system in the next 17 years. It's going to create a lot of opportunities for veterans and others to pick up and do some of that work.
Do most of your organizations have support groups that promote the advancement of minorities and women?
Yes.
Fidel, what goes on at how do you foster amongst women, blacks, Hispanics, veterans? Are there groups within your?
Yeah, we call them employee network groups, and we have a variety of employee network groups for women, African Americans, Asians, Latinos. We just started a group for employees with family members that have a variety of disabilities, because they may have special challenges and needs even for them to come to work. So we just started a employee network group focusing on those employees. And they'll have an executive sponsor. They'll hold events, they'll hold networking events. They'll get in front of other managers and executives. Networking is a big thing, but what our employee networks really do is focus on the community as well. They're bringing service to the community, and it's interesting, they bring the rest of the company with them as well. Whether it's a food drive, a coat drive, the organization of Latinos at Exelon Ole focuses much like this organization on scholarships. And there's a huge fundraiser and awarding like $2,000 scholarships to giving back to the community.
And are there, Beth, because you've gotten two, I imagine, right? You've got those. Are we seeing those leaders within these different respective groups moving up through the ranks, in the management ranks? And can you tell us of one of those stories?
I can tell one in the room, actually, a number of them in the room. But yes, we have two. Our 2 employee resource groups are African American, or people of color, and women. And I recently went to On Rapport, that's our African American employee resource group. They celebrated their 25th anniversary about a week and a half ago, and it was a wonderful gala, a wonderful evening. And I had gone to a meeting a few weeks prior, and I asked how many of them were directors now with the company, and a number of hands were raised. And I asked how many of them were directors of the company 3 years ago when AGL Resources and NICOR Inc. merged. A lot fewer hands. So one of the things that I am very proud of in my fairly short tenure here at NICOR Gas is how many people, women and people of color, have been promoted into much more senior leadership positions. And it makes me smile, and I have a number of them in the room with me today, so I appreciate that.
Good. I know this is, I'm getting my chain yanked right here, but we're going to ask a couple questions. So anybody have any questions? A couple questions. Yeah, come up to the microphone real quick. Name, rank, and serial number. Where are you from?
My name is Ray Arias. My company is Arias Information Solution. My rank was Specialist 4th class. I am an Army veteran. To answer your question, I have an IT development company, and I've tried to do business with each of your companies, some success on the end a while ago. I've been through your websites. What we like to do is look at your annual reports and your 10Ks, which tells us what problems you're trying to solve, right? Which then we come to you and say, we have an innovative solution for you, right? And I think what you're all missing is the fact that you look at and you offer contracts based on what is, not what you want to be, right? So when you talk about innovation, innovation is about what you want to be. Remember, there was no RFP for Facebook. There was no RFP for LinkedIn. You get my drift, right? So I think it would serve you well to be able to come up with an opportunity to share at a very high level the problems that you're trying to address and ask communities like ours to say, okay, what do you got, right? Which is completely independent of one's color, background, rank, any of those things, because the best ideas need to come forward. So there's my request to you all.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any, yeah, come on up, young man.
I live in Chicago. My name is David Sanchez, but I grew up in Denton, Texas, which just banned fracking nationwide, citywide, which is great.
I hear that twang in your voice.
Oh, you're just a little bit, right?
Twang.
No, but this past week I read an article in Chicago Tribune saying that energy companies will now be able to start doing applications for hydraulic fracking in Illinois. I just wanted to, I guess, ask Senator Sandoval and as well as some of the natural gas proponents that are on the floor there, what do you see the future? Because I think the natural gas is great, but I think maybe the way that we can extract it might not be the best. What do you guys see the future of natural gas and maybe different technologies that might be possible?
Well, fracking is on the way. It's going to happen in Illinois, and I would rather give a quick perspective from either one of the gas
I'll be happy
folks.
to cover it. So I believe that the appropriate amount of regulation is helpful, and I think that's what the laws that we're putting in place and the regulation behind it is helpful. I think that's what's really hurt the fracking industry in general, is that that it has been less than transparent over time. I do think that we are in an energy revolution in this nation. And part of the reason the economy has been as stable as it has is because of that energy revolution and the many finds that we have of natural gas throughout the United States. And hydraulic fracking has brought innovation. Somebody mentioned innovation. That's part of our industry, and none of us here are in the exploration and production part of our industry. But if you look at the technology and the innovation that's come to that part of the energy industry, it's phenomenal. And it has really allowed the price of natural gas to be fairly stable, notwithstanding polar vortexes, and which is really not a product issue. It's really an infrastructure issue, and how do you get that product there? So I'm not going to say I'm pro or against fracking. What I am saying is that that we as a company and we as an industry are very pro our product. We believe that it will create energy independence. It already is headed that way. It is an American product, it's affordable, and it's abundant. And we should be taking advantage of that because it does warm our homes, fuels our cars, and powers our industry.
Thank you. One more question from our gallery, and
Hello. Good afternoon. My name is Mike Saltagero. I'm the Vice Chairman of Elite Service Stable Veterans for Illinois. United States Marine Corps, Corporal, Iraqi veteran. First of all, I want to say thank you, Senator Sandoval, because you really lead the charge for us veterans here in Illinois. And for a minute, I'm talking from thousands of veterans. Thank you for what you do every day.
thank you.
On that note, your organizations have an established goal, and more importantly, for veterans, is it being mandated or is it being watched, or is there a way we can gauge it and see where it's going for construction?
It's reported.
Fidel? Yeah, you reported already.
When you say mandated, I don't think it's mandated by law, if you mean by mandated, but do we have internal goals as far as veterans? Yes, we do. In fact, a lot of our hiring that we've been doing, especially, I'll say at the first line supervisors, we really target military personnel who bring those leadership skills, from the experience in the military. So we've hired a lot of folks from the military. On the contracting side, we have several contractors that are veteran-owned. One of them comes to mind that we worked with early on and has really grown. You might know MZI. It's veteran and Latino-owned, and they've actually become a great partner in a lot of the work that we're doing through the smart grid law as well. So we monitor those, we do track those, and we include as much as possible.
What is that goal? Is there a percent on that goal?
I don't have that. We can get you that. I don't know that offhand.
Liz, would you like to react to that?
We do report every year. Your original question was, are we mandated? And I think Fidel did a nice job answering that. And do we report it? And as Senator Sandoval mentioned, he and one of his colleagues put forth a bill that we were already doing some filings. This put forth a bill that not only requires us to file and provide that transparency that I mentioned about fracking, same transparency back on supplier diversity on an annual basis, but we will be hosting more of a panel summit once a year as well in coordination with and in conjunction with the ICC, and Commissioner Miguel de Valle mentioned that earlier. So we do provide transparency on an annual basis out to the public, and you can go out on the ICC's website and see this report.
Is there any gold percentages?
We don't have specific internal goals for broken out. We have between minorities, women, and veterans. We have a kind of combined goal.
You're encouraging that they should mandate and they should be
Absolutely.
more aggressive about the goals
Absolutely.
for veterans, right?
When there's a goal set in anything you do, I mean, if you look at other states and everything else, when there's a goal set, I mean, it's a dream. Obviously it's good faith effort, but it actually tells the contractors, the general contractors, that hey, we have to put a good faith effort to achieve this goal. If you look at other places in part of the world like New York and Texas and California, they have an 8% goal. It's even higher in New York. Illinois, we need to show that we are Illinois. Before I was a Marine, I was an Illinoisan. And I want to stay in Illinois. And I need your help to do that. And I have all these veterans that are my members that really want to get work done and want to get out there and work. But you guys establishing a goal, saying, okay, this is what we want to do, we want to achieve. We owe it. You can't drive an hour and not hear a veteran commercial. But what are we actually doing about it? You have the power to do it. Go back and say, hey, let's put a goal on this. So it's good faith. Thank you very much.
We have a closing comment.
Yeah, actually, it's just a comment. It's not a question.
Sure.
I represent ACE Technical Charter High School, which stands for Architecture, Construction, and Engineering. Thank you. Here are my students. They're here. They're interested in energy and careers. But basically, I just want to thank you all for the support that you've done for the education programs. And I just want to encourage you to continue to do it, to visit our schools, actually get involved and see what they're doing in their classes. And we invite you to our school anytime that you like to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that resumes our panel on energy. Let's give our panelists a warm thank you.